All right, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are opening the case file on one of history's most captivating mysteries, the lost island of Atlantis. Is it a real sunken continent? A distorted memory of some true catastrophe? Or is it just a really, really good story? Let's dive in. Believe it or not, this one single passage, written by the Greek philosopher Plato way back around 360 BC, is where it all begins. This one description launched a legend that has fascinated treasure hunters, historians, and dreamers for thousands of years. It is clue number one in our entire investigation. So, to really get to the bottom of this mystery, we have to go back to the source, the man who started it all. What did Plato actually say? And maybe more importantly, what did he really mean by it? And this point right here is absolutely crucial. Everything we think we know about Atlantis, every movie, every book, every wild theory you've ever heard, it all comes from just these two ancient texts. Seriously, there are no other original historical sources, none. The entire legend, the whole shebang, starts and ends right here with Plato. Now, here's the thing. Most experts, the classicists who study this stuff for a living, they all pretty much agree Plato's story wasn't meant to be a history lesson. It was a powerful allegory, a kind of philosophical thought experiment he used to talk about his own ideas of a perfect society. So, according to the tale, this place was a true marvel, basically a work of divine engineering. The god Poseidon falls for a mortal woman, Clito, and to protect her, he creates this perfectly concentric city, literally shaping the landscape into these rings of land and water, a detail that, as you'll see, becomes super important for modern-day hunters. Plato really painted a picture, didn't he? He described this advanced civilization, a massive naval superpower that was fabulously wealthy, with exotic metals and incredible architecture. But, and there's always a but in these stories, its people grew arrogant and corrupt, and after they failed to invade a heroic ancient Athens, the gods punished them. The entire island sank beneath the waves in one single catastrophic day and night. So if pretty much all the scholars agree that Atlantis was just a story, how in the world did it transform into this global hunt for a real-life lost continent? Well, the answer lies in how the tale was completely reinvented, centuries and centuries later. For more than 2,000 years, the story was largely seen as just that, a story. Even Plato's own student, Aristotle, thought it was fiction. But in the 19th century, everything changed. A writer named Ignatius Donnelly published a book arguing that Atlantis wasn't just real, but that it was the mother of all ancient civilizations. And let me tell you, his book was an absolute sensation. It completely flipped the script, transforming Plato's philosophical tale into a hunt for a literal historical place. This new belief in a real Atlantis kicked off a worldwide search that's still going on today. So let's put on our investigator hats and look at the modern search. People have proposed dozens of locations, but we're going to zero in on the top 3 suspects. Our first suspect takes us to Mauritania, to a geological feature called the Richet structure, better known as the Eye of the Sahara. It's this massive circular formation right in the middle of the desert, and when you see it from space, wow, its concentric rings look uncannily like Plato's description. So could this actually be it? Well, as soon as you look at the geological evidence, the whole theory just falls apart. The structure is a completely natural, eroded dome that's about 100 million years old. So yeah, that predates humanity itself by a lot. Plus, it's in the middle of the Sahara Desert and shows no signs it was ever underwater. As a candidate for Atlantis, it's a definite non-starter. Okay, on to our next suspect, Spartelbank. It's a submerged former island in the Strait of Gibraltar. Now, this spot has one major thing going for it. Its location. It's right beyond the Pillars of Hercules, which is exactly where Plato's text said Atlantis was. But this is a perfect example of the difference between a really cool idea and hard scientific evidence. While a few researchers have suggested it's a sunken island, the geological consensus is that it's basically just a big pile of mud and rock that slid into place a long, long time ago. There's no evidence of a city or any civilization at all. A more recent theory, which got a lot of attention from a 2011 documentary, pointed to the huge marshlands of southern Spain. Researchers using satellite images found these weird shapes in the mudflats that they thought could be memorial cities, built by refugees who escaped Atlantis, which would mean the main city was nearby before a tsunami wiped it out. But, and this is a big but, the Spanish scientists who were actually on that research team, They were not happy. They basically came out and said the documentary makers twisted their work and sensationalized it, calling the conclusions fanciful. So once again, when you really scrutinize it, the theory just doesn't hold water. Okay, so if every single location we check out turns up empty, maybe, just maybe, we're asking the wrong question. What if the legend isn't about a specific place at all? What if Plato was inspired by the distant, distorted memory of a real, global cataclysm? So stick with me here. This date, roughly 12,800 years ago, is the approximate time for what's known as the Younger Dryas impact hypothesis. The theory goes that a comet, or pieces of a comet, hit the Earth, triggering sudden climate change, massive floods, and widespread extinctions. And what's really wild is that this date is shockingly close to the 9,000 years before his time that Plato's characters mention in the story. And it's not just a guess. There's some compelling physical evidence pointing to a major cataclysm right around this time. Things like a weird spike in platinum and ice cores, tiny molten droplets, and even microscopic diamonds that can only be formed under extreme heat and pressure. Now, let's be super clear, this does not prove Atlantis existed. But what it does suggest is that a massive, world-altering catastrophe, kind of like the one Plato wrote about, might have actually happened, leaving a memory that echoed down through the ages. So, after we've looked at the text, the theories, and the science, what's the final verdict? What's the bottom line on the lost continent of Atlantis? Well, despite all the incredible theories and some really tantalizing clues, the simple, hard fact is this. There is zero, and I mean zero, archaeological proof for a historical Atlantis. No pottery, no ruins, no inscriptions. The overwhelming scholarly consensus remains that Plato just made it up. You know, in a way, Plato himself gives us the biggest clue. In the dialogue, his character Critias is amazed at how perfectly the Atlantis story fits the hypothetical ideal society that Socrates had just described. It's almost like Plato is winking at us, the audience, basically saying, see, I made up the story to perfectly fit the philosophical point we were just talking about. So maybe the enduring power of the Atlantis myth isn't really about a sunken city of gold and crystal at all. If Atlantis was never really lost, what does our endless search for it actually say about us? Perhaps our centuries-long hunt is really about our own deep-seated fascination with a lost golden age, a nostalgia for a perfect past, and the hope that, somewhere, a better world is just waiting to be rediscovered.